Last time on Design What, we discovered what hierarchy is, why it matters, and the 5 tools that designers use to guide attention. But understanding a principle and actually recognizing it are 2 different skills altogether. So today we're going to practice seeing hierarchy in the real world. So, what are we going to learn today? One, identify visual hierarchy in real designs. We'll explain why your eye moves in a particular order, use hierarchy tools to improve a layout, and lastly, apply hierarchy to make your own designs easier to understand. And by the end of this lesson, you'll be able to look at a design and explain why your eye moved in the order that it did. And once you start doing that, you will never look at posters, magazines, or even websites in the same way again, just like I did. So, this is a little bit of how today's journey will go. First, we'll train our eyes by looking at some real examples. Then we'll break them down together. After that, we'll improve a design step by step. And finally, I'll leave you with a little challenge to try on your own. So let's start with what caught my eye. The books I mentioned in part 1 and the information I absorbed made me have so many observations about hierarchy. And what caught my eye is a recurring design what segment that I want to keep developing, because I'm realizing that one of the best ways to actually learn design is through observing it. So, not just inside the software, but in magazines, posters, architecture, packaging, and also interfaces. And I'm finding that the more I can train myself to notice hierarchy in the real world, the more naturally I begin to understand visual thinking. I have created a Pinterest board of images that I would like to use as examples of what I'm observing. So we'll go through about 5 images and I'll discuss my observations. Let's start with this one. Before I say anything, just maybe take a look at the image for a few seconds. What caught your eye first? Was it the title? Was it the birds? For me personally, it was actually the empty space. And what's interesting is because there's almost nothing in the empty space if you have a look there. And I think most people would say it's wasted space. But now that I've been studying design principles, I think designers think about it differently. And look how much room the title has. Look how isolated the birds are. Nothing is competing for your attention at all. And the empty space gives your eyes somewhat a place to rest. And without all of the surrounding space, I feel the birds wouldn't feel nearly as important. And I think this is what hierarchy through space is. Sometimes what you remove is just as powerful as what you add. Now let's try a different one. Again, don't analyze it necessarily, just kind of look at it for a little while. Where did your eye go first? Now, think about this. Where did your eye go next? For me, my eyes traveled down the column of red circles, and then it suddenly jumped to the black circle. And only then did I notice the actual text. And I don't think that's by accident. I think the designer is quietly leading our eyes through the page. Do you notice anything else? The black circle is not bigger than the others. It's simply, different. And I think this position makes it impossible to ignore the actual black circle. This is something designers do all the time, I've noticed, and they don't just decide what goes on the page, they also decide where it goes. And position creates direction. It tells your eyes where to begin and where to go next. And this is hierarchy through position, or maybe also a little bit of contrast. And I think good design principles often all work together. Let's look at this third image. Again, don't analyze it, just have a look. What caught your eye first? Was it maybe the bright red background, the large letters, the people? For me, it was actually the people. Even though they're much, much smaller than the letters, they immediately stand out. Why? I think because our brains naturally notice things that are different. Everything else is made from bold geometric letters, but these are human silhouettes. And I think difference attracts attention. And that's exactly what contrast does. The red background also helps, and the black shapes become incredibly easy to see. There's also something else that's interesting. We're talking about hierarchy today, but hierarchy is often created using contrast. The more something stands apart, the more likely we are to notice it first. So, this is hierarchy through contrast. And in our next episode, we'll explore contrast in much more detail. Let's look at another image. Once again, don't overthink it, just kind of look at it for a little while. And what did you notice first? I'm willing to bet like €1,000. Most of you looked at the big text. Think big. Why? Well, I mean, because it's huge. Sometimes design really is that simple. Our eyes are naturally drawn to larger objects before smaller ones. Now, if you look again, what do you notice second? Eventually, your eyes find these tiny words, and that's where the design becomes really clever. The message isn't just written, it's designed. So think big is literally big, and that small is literally small. So the typography reinforces the message, and this is hierarchy through size, and it's one of the fastest ways designers can guide attention. Let's look at one last example. And just like before, don't analyze it, just take a look. What caught your eye first? Was it the rabbit, or did you read the headline first? For me, I went straight to these words. And do you notice something about these words in particular? The words lead and I aren't just larger, they also feel much heavier. And that heavier font weight makes them feel more important somehow. Now, if you compare that sentence to the one underneath, the designer is telling you exactly what to read first and what can wait until later. Do you notice something else too? I think the rabbit is a large image, but because the headline is heavier and positioned higher, your eyes naturally begin with the text. And that's hierarchy through weight. Weight is also not just about making everything bold, it's about giving important information, the strongest voice. And in part one, we learned that weight creates visual anchors, and this is how it's done in real life or in the real world. So that's what caught my eye, and I'm just wondering what caught yours? Magazine covers are one of the clearest examples of hierarchy, and the eye usually follows a predictable sequence. First, the main visual that captures emotion and attention. Second, the masthead that establishes authority and identity. And number three, the supporting copy that creates secondary navigation. And hierarchy is really about designing a visual journey, and the designer is guiding the eye intentionally through the composition itself. So, we've just looked at a few different designs earlier, like 5 examples, and each one guided our attention in a different way. But those were carefully chosen examples, of course. So, I started wondering, would we find the same ideas in the real world? And so I decided to put that to the test. So, I went on a little design mission. Let's start with this Vogue cover because there are two. And before I say anything again, let's just have a look. What catches your eye first? I think for me, it's the masthead, and the masthead being the magazine cover name, which is Vogue. It's large, I think it's quite elegant, and it stretches almost across the entire width of the cover. Now, where does your eye go next? Mine, of course, went straight to the faces, and even though they are three people, they are grouped together, and that kind of makes it feel like one visual unit. And only after that did I begin actually reading the headline. I did notice something interesting, that the masthead is actually sitting behind the headline. So normally you'd expect the magazine's name to dominate, but here the designer lets the story share the spotlight. And so that's hierarchy, not because one thing is huge, but because everything and every element has a clear role. And what I noticed is that the masthead definitely builds the trust. The photograph creates sort of the emotion. The headline tells the story, and then each one of them has an entire different job. Now, when it's compared to this cover, again, let's see what you notice first. For me, different than before, I noticed the model first. And I think that's because she's kind of looking directly at me or us, and our eyes are naturally drawn to her. Our eyes are naturally drawn to faces, I think. And then after that, I noticed sort of the leopard print, the pattern, and the pattern creates a texture and a visual interest. And only then do I notice the headline being Modern Love. I think this cover is simpler. It feels simpler at least, and there are fewer competing elements than the previous one, so more space, fewer words, and I think hierarchy is doing exactly what it should. It tells your eyes, look at me first, or look here first. What's interesting is that both these covers use hierarchy, but I think they use it quite differently. The first cover has lots of information, and the second one keeps things simple. So, different layouts, different stories, but the same principle. And good hierarchy isn't about making every design look the same, it's about helping people know what matters. So, I love going to the movies and I look at movie posters all the time. And so I thought, what if I imagined a client was asking me to create a movie poster? This would be my first attempt. Have a look at it. What do you think is missing? Where does your eye go first? Well, I think the problem here is everything is basically on the same level of importance. So nothing stands out, nothing leads my eye anywhere, and there's no clear starting point. So I thought, how can we improve it? What's the first thing that you noticed about this one? For me, it's a title, obviously. Why? Because I changed one thing, the size. And now the hierarchy is much clearer, and your eyes immediately know where to begin. But I think there's still a chance we can do even better than this one. Now, let's take another look. What is the difference this time? The title is still the hero, but now we've added another level. Order creates meaning over here. This now becomes the supporting line. And a film by Lee Hippolyte now becomes supporting information. And instead of everything competing, everything now has a role. And we've created three clear levels of hierarchy. Your eyes know exactly where to start and exactly where to go next. And that's what hierarchy really is. It's not about making things bigger, it's about helping people understand what matters most. And good design doesn't just look bigger, I think it communicates better. Okay, now it's your turn. Before you finish watching YouTube today, I would like you to look at one design. It could be your favorite app, your poster, a magazine, or even a menu at your favorite cafe. And ask yourself two questions. Number one, what caught my eye first and why? Then the second question, can you spot the level of hierarchy? Or if you find something interesting, share it using hashtag #DesignWhatChallenge or tag me in the design what. I genuinely would like to see what captures your eye. And then also with that images, answer the two questions. What caught your eye? And can you spot the level of hierarchy? Because as I'm learning and teaching myself graphic design, I'm noticing that I'm starting to notice hierarchy. And once you start noticing it, you'll not stop and you'll start seeing it everywhere. And also remember, design isn't just something that we create, it's something that we learn to see. So today we explored how hierarchy guides our attention. But there's another design principle working quietly in the background, and that is contrast. Contrast helps us notice what's actually different. And the difference is often what captures our attention. So, in the next episode, we're going to discover how designers use color, size, shape, and value to make important information impossible to ignore. And trust me, once you're able to understand contrast, you'll start seeing it absolutely everywhere. So, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.